What's up, guys? So this is a little Spreck here, and Justin is back. Today we're here to review.
We're talking about Jim and Andy, The Great Beyond, plus a contractually obligated mention of Tony Clifton, I believe is the subtitle.
Yes.
This is a Netflix original documentary that came out November 17th, and that's why I'm back, because I can afford Netflix. I can't afford movies, so thank you.
We are here to review this film. Now, Justin came to me. I didn't know anything about this. He told me, hey, there's this new documentary about Jim Carrey, the movie Man on the Moon, which I had not seen, but I know about. And he said, you should definitely give it a try. It's about method acting and how far Jim Carrey took this role into method acting. And I watched it, and I just didn't know just how far he took it, but when I watched it, wow.
It's surreal. There's moments in the movie that if I just read it in an article, I would have said that's bogus, they're making it up. But they have archival footage that actually Universal wouldn't let them release from Man on the Moon until almost 20 years later now, because the film came out in 1999.
Yep.
And so they back up everything they say, and the film is cut between Jim Carrey now, who has a beard, and it's really weird.
It is weird to see that.
Yeah, it's like seeing Robin Williams with facial hair. It just doesn't make sense.
Like in Jumanji.
Yes. It's that level of beard, too. And so it's cut between that and the archival footage from 1999 and from the shoot of Man on the Moon. And Jim Carrey's trying to explain everything, and they're showing it, and it's almost two documentaries, one on Jim Carrey, one on Andy Kaufman.
Yep.
And if you don't know anything about Andy Kaufman, you don't need to know about him. The movie explains enough about him that you kind of get a picture of it.
Yeah.
And it's just really fascinating, both how strange Kaufman was, how strange Carrey was. A lot of people pop up in this movie.
They're very similar.
They're very similar.
Very similar. And watching the footage of them making this movie and behind the scenes footage and just how far Jim Carrey took this method acting, it just makes you cringe. Like, oh, please, pull back a little. You can tell everyone on set, at first, is on edge.
It gets awkward at times because Andy Kaufman actually had an alter ego known as Tony Clifton.
Yep.
And Carrey plays Clifton the way Kaufman played Clifton, of him being a separate person.
It was like
Inception. And so it's so weird because you hear Jim Carrey now talking about, well, Andy and Tony would talk to me, and you'd hear almost a split personality, almost like multiple personality disorder, but I don't think he had that. It's hard to understand exactly what was going on in Jim Carrey's head.
Yeah.
And the film kind of keeps you guessing. There is no clear answer because we don't know, but it's a really insightful look into how much drama there was in Kaufman's life, Jim Carrey's life at the time, the production of the film. I know a lot of people, they say, oh, I never saw the movie, but it was on the news all the time about the filming of the film.
Yep, and especially when they're doing the scene with the wrestling and Jim Carrey ends up going to the hospital, and it was all over. It's like Jim Carrey goes to the hospital on the set of Man on the Moon, and it's just like, it's crazy how Jim Carrey playing this character, this person, egged on other actors to where eventually they would actually lose their temper and go apeshit on Jim Carrey.
And so, Andy Kaufman had a feud with this wrestler, Jerry the King Lawler, and I kind of knew about it because I'm a big wrestling fan. I kind of knew about it, but when Jerry Lawler actually popped up, I'm like, oh crap, this was the guy Lawler fought with. And then Carrey also feuded. Lawler actually played himself in the film, and so Carrey almost made it worse than Kaufman did. Because with Kaufman, there was always a question of, is it real, is it fake? We don't really know entirely how real it got. But with Carrey, it got fairly real and very fast. And it was just so fascinating to hear Lawler talk about the two different people. And Courtney Love was in the movie.
Was he?
Courtney.
Was she?
Yes.
No,
Courtney Love actually popped up. She played Kaufman's girlfriend in the film.
Okay.
In Man on the Moon.
That's right.
So Courtney Love popped
up.
And so this was, it was really interesting to see Courtney Love be relevant in something besides the Fall Out Boy music video. So that was very nice. I miss her. She was great. She did not kill Kurt Cobain.
All the David Bowie music that was in this documentary, there's quite a bit.
And the thing, there's a lot of David Bowie music throughout the film. Several songs from The Rise of Ziggy Stardust, Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust. Space Oddity plays.
Yep, towards the end.
I'd say about 4 David Bowie songs.
Yeah.
Which for a movie that has nothing to do with David Bowie,
it's an interesting choice.
It was.
But it works.
They played the other songs that were relevant, like The Great Beyond by R.E.M. that was made about Kaufman. They played the song, I think Kaufman himself either parodied or wrote Man on the Moon.
Yeah.
But a lot of Bowie music. I guess the director was just a big Bowie fan, but I love Bowie, so I was pleasantly surprised. But if you don't like Bowie, there's a lot of Bowie music.
Yes. Yes.
But let's talk about how good this movie is.
This documentary really captured me, and a lot of documentaries don't. And I love Jim Carrey. I grew up with Jim Carrey. But after I heard about it, I was kind of like, okay, I'll give it a try. But as soon as I hit play, the movie just instantly had me. And I think I pretty much watched it in one sitting.
Yeah, I took a break to work on a group project and immediately finished it after, and it's surreal to watch it. Like,
I really like watching documentaries on the filming of movies and to see what happened behind the scenes. And if you like that too, this documentary is for you.
and watch it now because it's already getting a lot of buzz, but the film's currently sitting at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes as of time of recording, and it's getting a lot of buzz. Expect this to be nominated for Best Documentary at the Oscars. Like, if it's not up, I will be stunned.
That would be surprising. But after watching this documentary, I haven't seen Man on the Moon, but I know about it. I definitely want to see it now.
Yeah, I definitely want to see it now to see how well it all came together. And if you haven't seen the movie Man on the Moon, you don't have to understand this film. You don't have to enjoy this film. I'd almost say going in blind is better. That's a biased opinion because that's the only experience I've had.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't need to have seen it. Neither of us have seen Man on the Moon, but we both understood the documentary very well. It's only like an hour and a half. It's not.
It's very
long.
short, and I think it works to its
benefit.
benefit. Yeah.
And I think they worked from it was like 100 hours of footage they had.
Yeah, and it wasn't released until just recently, and they made this documentary.
And it's so fascinating the way it's all cut together because it does feel like two distinct films. One on Jim Carrey, one on Andy Kaufman, but also about method acting. You hear about method acting, and a lot of people view acting as, it's like a safe, easy, posh profession, and it often can be, but then you get stuff like stunt actors, you get stuff like method acting where like Tom Hanks, his body is irrevocably damaged. Jared Leto, his
Christian
body
Bale.
is ruined.
I think after
Hugh
watching
Jackman
this,
is getting pretty messed up.
is he really?
He's having to buff up all the time.
Buffing up. Well, now he's not Wolverine.
Exactly.
anymore. But I think after watching this, you realize that method acting can not only mess you up physically, but maybe possibly even mentally.
It takes a toll, and I think a lot of people kind of hear about it and they're like, oh, that's just something, some of the artsy-fartsy people do. But seeing it in action and then seeing Jim Carrey talk about his experience with it 20 years later, and there's a really cool thing at the end where this is the only time Carrey has done this level of method acting, but hearing Carrey talk about he doesn't say he plays the character. He lets them speak through him. Like, he becomes them. He lets them in.
Yep.
And there's a line like right at the end where Jim Carrey goes, it'd be pretty cool to be Jesus.
Jesus, yeah.
And he's serious, too. That's the great part about it. And it's like, that, heaven forbid, Jim Carrey ever get cast as Jesus, which I don't want,
I would
even though
love
the
to
beard.
see that, actually.
I want to see the behind the scenes because Jim Carrey would just go around, healed my child. Like, if he did what he did in this film, but with Jesus.
Do you think if they were doing the crucifying scene, he would actually let them?
It's Jim Carrey. Probably, and then Sue, like, it's such an insightful view, and even if you're not usually into, like, the film industry and, like, how it all works, it's such a view into someone's mind, too, and how the mind works. I can't recommend it enough. It's a great film. It's on Netflix now. You gotta watch it. Like, it's just phenomenal.
So basically, you recommend this?
I ran into you and I was like, watch this, review this, like, you must watch this tonight. And
and I did. I think I watched it in one sitting. Guys, I highly recommend this movie, or this documentary as well. Give it a try. You don't have to like Jim Carrey. You don't even have to know much about Andy Kaufman and Jim Carrey and Man on the Moon. But if you like behind the scenes footage of movie making and
even if you don't, this is just one of the
interesting.
Even if you don't, like, this is just so surreal because it's not just your usual behind the scenes footage. It's something more than that, I think, because it's almost proof of what Carrey said. Like, it's not just behind the scenes. Oh, here's how we do the makeup. It's like, here's Jim Carrey saying that he was Andy Kaufman, and here's the visual proof. Mm-hmm. Because without that, like, I wouldn't believe it. So that's kind of what separates this from, like, behind the scenes featurette. This would not work. It's just a behind the scenes featurette.
Yeah.
It has to be its own beast.
Yeah.
And I think they did a really great job with it. I think they handled the footage very nicely.
All right, guys. So that was our thoughts on Andy and
Jim and Andy, The Great Beyond.
Yeah, Jim and Andy and the Great Beyond. Great documentary. Check it out. All right, guys. I'm Little Spreck. If you like this, go ahead and give it a share. Like and subscribe to the channel, and follow me at Little Spreck on Twitter. Anything
So
you'd like to
I
say?
can do a personal plug.
Go ahead.
Yay! I'm Justin from Overly Animated. Check us out at overlyanimated.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast, and check us out. Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right. See you later.
See ya.